And even from a personal like experience and perspective, I think what these AI tools make me do is almost think a little differently. And it's almost like this kind of it's not just curiosity, but more like critical thinking, maybe thinking outside of my box of, let's say I'm a logistics leader, right? But understanding how my decisions impact the supply chain upstream and downstream. How this is all connected? Because I think what these tools allow us to do, they're not doing the work for us. We're still the one in charge
Mhm.
making the decisions, asking the questions. But I think I need to have to rethink how I ask my question. I need to, like, if I now make a decision in supply chain, now this allows me to understand better the impact that had on product development or on sales or on marketing or on different departments and groups in my company that I've never really thought about, right? I'm an expert in LTL, FTL, and all of that. But if I can now expand my horizon a little bit and let the AI educate me as well, how my decisions are flowing like that, it's just a different way, a different mindset almost that's required to work in this environment.
100%. And it allows you to be able to do so much more. So, whatever your team does, you understand. But, now you can use AI to figure out, well, I am one team in a massive organization. What wins can I be helping others achieve? So how do I help sales better? How do I help marketing better? How do I help engineering better? And then how do I become so important that they all need me? So, and then same with my teams. And it's less selfish and more really team based because you want your company to win. And you should be able to all win faster. But I agree with you. It's the framing the problem as well as thinking bigger. You no longer need to think so small. Pretend like you have no constraints. And what could you do? And how can you be more thoughtful and helpful? And how do you be more efficient and be more lean? So I agree. There's so much opportunities. And for most organizations, there really is so much that they could be doing that they couldn't do before. And that's the win. But your point about the planning organization, if the people were just doing repetitive work, that work does not need to happen. Anything that is highly repetitive and manual that you can teach and outline in a Word document or video, that's the kind of work that gets replaced. But when you need to use your brain, when you need to think, when you need to collaborate, those are the jobs that you're just going to be supercharged with.
Yeah, no, and now if I take this a level up, I had a conversation with another technology expert who started seeing the role of a chief AI officer appearing in a few companies here and there, and I thought what was interesting, so basically a coordinating function across the enterprise. And then I said what we sort of talked about was what's the skill level that I would need to have to be a chief AI officer. And he was like, it's really interesting because I need to understand technology really well. I need to understand business and the entire
Mhm.
enterprise really well. And on top of that, I probably need to be a semi-expert psychologist because I need to understand people and their mindsets really well. So I was like, wow, like where do you even find such amazing humans, right? Like is that something you've come across?
So it's really interesting. The team that we built that created everything for us was a team of that. So I actually had my chief of staff move to own this for a quarter. And it was him, it was our chief product officer, who's an AI expert, and then it was a couple of engineers. And that was it. It was those four people. And then they're the ones who really thought about the thesis of what does this need to look like? And it's interesting that there's one person, a person might be a unicorn, but maybe it's a team. And maybe it's figuring out who does that team need to be in. It shouldn't hopefully be a long-term position, but if you put your executive team, and it needs to be the people who understand the business part of it, because that to me is so important because they're the ones who dream big and can explain it to the experts and the AI experts and the engineers, because engineers can now become AI experts. Give them a crash course in AI, and then AI will really superpower what they can do. The psychologist part we definitely didn't think through, so that's interesting. Um, that's an interesting opportunity, I think, because it is what we've had to do a lot is talking to our people and saying, okay, we've always done everything we can to be automated, and they trust us. We've always said, show us what you do, we're going to automate it, and then you're going to move up because we don't like to do anything manually. So they have trust in us and our organization. It's always been our core principle. It's continue to innovate and automate wherever you can. If you're if this is a new organization or existing one that your team is going to feel uncomfortable. And that's going to mean they're going to withhold critical information that is needed for you to be successful and then creating an MCP server or creating the automations that need to exist. So you definitely need to think through that problem. And from our perspective, we just say we've always elevated people because we know that there's more problems to unlock if we can have more people. And if we can do that with higher margins, great. If you can't, then you're going to have to solve for that psychologist gap.
Well, and I think it brings it back to the point from earlier, which is I think the problem that you described as a technology company is different than the problem you have as a big brand shipping company that ships stuff. And as a tech company, you always are eager to do more and get more stuff done. And you are leaner, you are smaller than some giant Fortune 500 shipping organization, right? So I think the mindset piece and how do I deal with my people in that organization, either reskilling them or keeping them motivated or keep it right. Like it's a very different challenge for sure. We're coming up to the end of our time. We covered a lot of topics. We covered a lot of questions. Is there anything else for this AI playbook? Any other questions that people come to you about or that you'd like to share? Anything else we haven't touched on?
I would just say start small. We used to do everything with pieces of papers and pens, all calculations, everything. Then we got comfortable with calculations and calculators. Although there used to be physical bugs in the computers, we figured out a way to get comfortable with it. The same will happen with AI. Just start small and move big, and you will get a win. But I would make sure your team sees the win and then trusts it, and then you can all move together and you're working to solve a problem and not work against friction in terms of emotions and distrust. So it's going to be an interesting world, and I think we should all be excited to see where things go, and we should want to be a part of the change that makes it all happen.